good morning, and delighted to be here on behalf of CMETB to speak with you all about our experience in Cavan and Monaghan of the Planet Youth Initiative. I suppose what I am going to be delivering this morning is a little bit different. We have completed quite a lot of the similar work that Emmett and his team here have completed in the west of Ireland, but my role today is to talk a little bit about the interventions that we've actually started to pilot in Cavan and Monaghan and how we've led out on that. So the first thing that I would like to do is just to bring you through an overview of today's presentation. I'm going to spend just a few minutes going through how Planet Youth was introduced in Cavan Monaghan initially. Then I'm going to speak a little bit about how we as a collective, each of our agencies who have a remit for children and young people, collectively are now working together to create a more positive social change across Cavan and Monaghan by aligning the evidence base that we're gaining from our Planet Youth work and the local strategies that we have in Cavan and Monaghan. And by the by, they're the same local strategies and policies that all of us here in the room have in our own local regions. I then have a small video to play. It's 8 minutes long, and it's going to give you a further little bit of insight in relation to that piece of work. We're then going to talk about the Leisure Card Initiative, which is an initiative itself that again stems from Reykjavik. And in essence, it's the ideal. It would be absolutely amazing if we could have something like that that was introduced from government down, like it is in Iceland, here in Ireland. It's an investment in our young people. And I think when you hear a little bit more about it, there will probably be a lot more people going home today agreeing with that fact. And then the second piece is, we looked at that model and we said, right, we want that, and we want that in Cavan and Monaghan. But how are we going to go and do that? How are we going to ensure that we can implement that on the ground for our young people across the region? We then are going to finish off with a second video, really showing you the implementation of that. So, to start off, how Planet Youth was introduced in Cavan and Monaghan, and it all started with a cup of tea. So I'm going to bring you back now to January 2020, pre-COVID, and through the ETBs we were invited to a UBU information session in Sligo. I believe it was one of the last sessions that we actually participated in before COVID. And whilst we were there hearing about everything that we needed to do in our day job, over the tea and coffee break, which often at meetings people know is the best information that you find and derive from meetings that you go to on a daily basis, my colleagues Sarah and Davnat down the back there were proudly displaying their photographs of the recent launch of the West of Ireland's Planet Youth project, and they spoke so enthusiastically about it. And I wanted just to hear more about that, because they were talking about that this was this survey that actually wasn't tokenistically talking to young people or consulting with focus groups that maybe had 3 or 4 young people in it. This was a survey who was reaching out to all 15 and 16-year-olds and found out directly from them what it was like to grow up in their regions, what their lifestyles were like, what their behaviours were like, what their attitudes were like. And straight away knowing from the work that we were trying to do in Cavan and Monaghan and the challenges that we were facing on the ground with high concerning levels of mental health, with high concerning levels of alcohol misuse, and many, many other events, that this was something that we needed to find out more about. So Sarah very kindly said, you know what, I don't think I'm giving it the justice, but she had done a great job. She said, you need to talk to Mr. Planet Youth. And Mr. Planet Youth was Emmett. So Emmett, I have to say from the outset, once I contacted Emmett, he very, very kindly invited us to participate in the Planet Youth Reykjavik conference that year, and to go alongside with himself and his colleagues from the West and also some colleagues from North Dublin. And when I went there, And it's something that I really advocate everybody to go to if this is something serious that you want to implement in your region. It was phenomenal. They had delegates there from all over the world who have been implementing Planet Youth, who have been researching the model and have been implementing initiatives and interventions, and it just blew me away. And I just said, no, this is absolutely something that we have to bring to Cavan and Monaghan. Our young people in Cavan and Monaghan, they deserve this. They deserve this project. And by them participating in this project, they were going to be invested in. And for everyone who has a remit for children and young people, and for everybody's game who wants to improve outcomes for children and young people, definitely for us, it's something that we are now so proud and lucky to be part of. Delighted to be joined here today by many of the Cavan Monaghan implementation members. They're all sitting right about here and just at the back. But if you want to find out a little bit more about the work and how we collaboratively work together, over lunchtime, please do try and find them out and have the conversations with them. So, who leads out on Planet Youth in Cavan and Monaghan? This is one of the questions that's asked many times by many people who are outside the region. And you know, in essence, it's a very fair question. You know, you do have to have somebody who works alongside you to gain the ethical approval with your research partners, and that is a body of work. And you do also have to have an organisation who will sign off on the service level agreement or the MOU with Iceland. And again, you know, that's very fair enough. However, what I would say is, in Cavan and Monaghan, not one organisation runs out on Planet Youth. If you're implementing Planet Youth in your region, you better get ready to be doing it on a collaborative basis. You need to be linking in with all of the other agencies and organisations who, as I said, have a remit for children and young people. And from the outset, we were really fortunate to have our 2 SIPCs come on board, to have our Drugs Task Force come on board, to have our youth organisations come on board. And in the first year and a half, there was 6 people that, even though we weren't employed by Planet Youth consumed all of our diaries. Because for that first year and a half, there were so many things that we needed to ensure that were rolled out in parallel with each other. It was linking in with Iceland, agreeing the survey that we were going to roll out for all of the young people. And the survey itself is quite extensive, 78 questions. But as Emmett said, it covers a wide range of all lifestyles and behaviours for young people. So we needed to make sure we were linking in with all of the agencies to find out what they needed to find out more about in the survey. So that was a huge body of work. The ethical approval piece was a huge body of work, and I have to say a very special thanks to Professor Mary Cannon and also our colleagues in North Dublin, Breege and David, who also participated with us on that journey. The other thing that we had to do in Cavan and Monaghan was we had to go out with our caps and we had to look for money, because similar to everybody else who signs an MOU with Iceland, we needed to come up with the goods and we needed to come up with the money just for the participation in the 5-year survey. And for Cavan and Monaghan, that was a figure of 50,000 that Emmett very kindly helped us barter. Our educational centres are 26. They're made up of our second level schools across Cavan and Monaghan and also our youth reach centres. So we went out and presented on the aims of the Planet Youth project and also explained quite clearly to all of the partners what they would get out of their contribution. We ended up getting 10 funders, €5,000 each. So the 2 county councils gave 5,000, the 2 integrated companies gave 5,000, the youth organisations, ourselves, the ETB, the Drug Task Force, the SIPCs and TUSLA as well. And the agreement was that we then were a team. We were a team who would implement the surveys with our young people, but we would also ensure that the data afterwards, not the school data, as Emmett said, that went directly to the schools and was confidential to the schools, but in terms of the county-wide data, that then belonged to everybody. And each of us had a specific lens that we could then look at that data when it was returned. Because obviously my responsibility in the ETB is with regards to the non-formal youth education. So I had a specific interest in finding out how our young people were doing in relation to that. Whereas the likes of the Drugs Task Force, they were specifically interested in the risk factors associated to why young people were participating in that. So what I would say is this is a really, really unique opportunity that if you're introducing Planet Youth in your area, to link in with the people who have a remit for children and young people, but also would have a vested interest to work alongside you together, where eventually you are putting the young person and their priorities at the centre of all of your work. What was absolutely amazing for ourselves was once the data came back, we had 2,000 young people participated in the first round of the survey. But when that data came back, we were then going to all of the interagency meetings across Cavan and Monaghan, and we no longer talked about anecdotal evidence of what young people needed or what they were up to or how they felt. No, we now had factual evidence and data where we could go to meetings and we could say, this is how our young people are doing. How are we going to address this? And not how we are going to address it as an ETB. Collectively, it's all our responsibility here to collectively put the supports in place to improve the outcomes for our young people. So that's the start of that social change piece that was doing. What I have to say now across Cavan and Monaghan is Planet Youth is now a standing agenda at many of our interagency meetings. That includes the Drug Task Force meetings through the County Council. That includes the SIPSI meetings, that includes our own Youth Work Committee meetings within the ETB, etc, etc. So the foundation, or the landscape should I say, right across Cavan and Monaghan, Planet Youth is very much part of that now going forward. Without saying furthermore, I'm going to introduce you now to the first 8-minute video. Just sit back and enjoy it, and hopefully you will hear some more of those important messages that I'm after giving directly from not only implementation members, but also our funders who we've been able to bring on board with us and join us on that journey in relation to implementing Planet Youth in Cavan and Monaghan. In 2021, our research partners and our Planet Youth implementation team in Cavan and Monaghan commenced year 1 of the Planet Youth survey by reaching out to all 15 and 16-year-olds across the region. In partnership with every second level school and youth reach setting, we met with over 2,000 young people who completed an online version of the survey. The Planet Youth model originated in Iceland as an evidence-based model which identifies risk factors that can have a negative impact on young people's lifestyles, attitudes and behaviours, which can then lead our young people on to making unhealthy or uninformed choices. The survey can also identify young people's protective factors that, if supported, can improve our young people's lifestyles, attitudes, behaviours and their choices. The information gathered from the survey provided us with a lens to our young people's world, with data so rich that we as a collective could sit down and research what it was that our young people were telling us, and in essence provided us with a mandate that we could then bring to the attention of local and regional policy makers to advocate on their behalf. Initial reading of our Planet Youth data was encouraging. Our young people told us that they feel warmth and loved in their families. High percentages get on well in their educational setting and feel connected to their friends and communities. But we noticed that a lot of our young people had a lot of spare time in their hands outside of their educational journey and not participating in other outside extracurricular activities. Unsupervised time added to them participating in more riskier behaviours. We began to see a worrying trend. So what were the reasons or the influencing factors that supported these low trends in young people's participation in leisure activities? Here are some of our local stakeholders from Cavan and Monaghan to explain what other reasons they feel they may be.
We really are not set up to have a lot of safe spaces for young people that they can come together. Very often when they do congregate, they're moved on from one place to the other.
The access and variety to activities was limited.
Children have had less access to participation in physical activity and recreational activities. And we know the evidence bears out that that has an impact not only on their physical health but also their mental health and well-being.
The data came back, the fact that there was a lack of access, a lack of opportunity, a lack of potential to engage.
We know post-COVID, a lot of young people had an increase in anxiety and especially social anxiety because they missed hanging out with their peers and they missed having those opportunities to come together.
Teenagers in particular, between the ages of 12 to 18, their levels of engagement in physical activity tends to decrease over these ages, and particularly amongst girls.
A lot of young people are living in rural areas and transport, the infrastructure is just not there to support them.
Often there are access issues, especially in disadvantaged areas and rural areas, for children and young people accessing these opportunities.
Obviously mental health is a huge issue at the minute, and physical activity is a great way of ensuring that people have positive mental health. Social interaction, technology obviously is taking over a lot at the minute, so at least by keeping people active, they're keeping them off maybe online on their phone that they're spending too many hours on already as well.
Our young people are accessing alcohol very early in life. More and more are accessing it on a more regular basis. Their indications are that there's more problematic or risk-taking around alcohol consumption, and where our young people are accessing the alcohol, whether that be in family homes, or in homes of friends, or actually in licensed premises.
We're in a kind of a cost of living crisis. There are families that are struggling, you know, the parents are out there working, trying to make ends meet. And very often there's no additional provision there for after school activities. Generally it's the first thing that actually goes when people are looking to cut back.
By identifying and working with our strategic partners, we identified that we had the potential of introducing a local Planet Youth intervention programme that could align with each organisation's aims and objectives, whilst producing positive outcomes for our young people.
We were asked to do further analysis and consultation to identify the key health priorities for the county. And after extensive consultations and research, the two areas that were most highlighted was increase in physical activity levels and also then the area of decrease in negative mental health.
The two indicators that we should focus on for Healthy Cavan were increase in the percentage of physical activity levels amongst adults and children from disadvantaged areas in Cavan. And secondly, we wanted to focus on children and young people under the age of 14.
The Sports Partnership is a national initiative driven through Sport Ireland. We target people who aren't traditionally active, target groups such as people with disability, older adults, teenagers, people in disadvantaged areas, people of different nationalities, and we try and keep them active through sport and physical activity within the community setting. So that's through schools, community groups, sports clubs. Part of that is through delivering actual programs. The other part is training and education, so upskilling coaches to make sure they're inclusive in the activities that they're doing and that they're hitting all of those target groups.
Monaghan CIPC is made up of all the agencies and support services for children not to 24 years of age. The aims and objectives is to identify gaps for the provision of services for young people and to put services and supports in place to address those gaps. It's really getting agencies to work more collaboratively together with, I suppose, the resources that we have, and then, trying to harness additional supports where needed.
Yeah, I think it's more important than ever to be particularly engaging with young people in physical activity. It's so many benefits on so many levels to young people, in terms of obviously the physical benefits on the body, but also their confidence levels, their collaboration and engagement with their peers on a fun basis, outside of the school system, and then maybe if you could look at physical activities that aren't your usual sports, like GAA or Gaelic, that there's other type of activities that young people can engage in. That's very important as well.
It's maybe helping us to look at how we frame our information so that young people are making better informed choices, and those who care and support them are making better informed choices around how they support them.
Okay, so on to the next part of our presentation. So I suppose when we looked at the data in Cavan and Monaghan, we realised that there was really, really strong correlations between the amount of free time that young people had in their on their hands on a daily basis, and the riskier behaviours that they began to participate in. This for us was an issue because obviously we do have many factors preventing young people in Cavan and Monaghan participating in programmes. Not only the rural piece and the lack of the transport infrastructure, but also post-COVID, many of the activities that the young people had once participated in didn't reopen. The long-standing volunteers who were there, leading out in the local pool halls and the snooker halls, they never reopened. We had a focus group with many of our young people through the various schools and again outside of the schools, and the young people were quite honest with us. They were saying, we'd love to go play football, we'd love to go hang out in the local AstroTurf or the GAA club, but unfortunately when we go there with our ball, the facilities are closed. And this is right across the country. So then they say, we hang out on the streets because that's where we can meet our friends. But then all of a sudden the guards might come along and say, group of 5 or 6 young people, can you please move on? Not that they've done anything, but just because as a group they look intimidating to others. So whose responsibility is it to bring this information to the policymakers and to address it? How do we fix it? And again, going back to what I said previously, it's not one person's role or responsibility. It's everybody's role and responsibility collectively. How do we introduce more leisure time activities for young people so that they can participate in safe, structured programmes and they have less time on their own where perhaps they might engage with riskier behaviours? And it brought us back again to Iceland, who in 2007 had also identified the exact same thing from their data. And what they did was transformational. First of all, from government level, they realised that they needed to invest in their young people. So gone are the words about grants for this, that or the other. They're essentially saying, no, our young people are important and they deserve more, and we're going to invest in our young people. So what they did first of all was totally put injection of funding straight into to develop the youth work sector and also the sporting groups. So paid professionals who were there to be able to support youth work programmes and activities in many of the areas and the boroughs right throughout Reykjavik. They then collaboratively and coordinating started to work together to ensure that there was programmes and provisions available across Reykjavik. Then came this, the fact that everyone needed to be equal. And let's face it, we all know right across Ireland, there's many young people who can afford to participate in many programmes, but there's a huge amount of young people and their families who absolutely cannot afford to participate in anything. So we really needed to make sure that whatever we were going to introduce in Cavan and Monaghan was something that every single young person could participate in equally, and the barrier of cost was removed. In Iceland, the way that they go around that is every child on an annual basis in Iceland receives a leisure card, which is essentially a credit of €500, and in today's currency, €515, that's available to that child, and they can then identify the programme that's of interest to them first of all, and then participate in those programmes and use their leisure card as credit against that activity or programme. Now young people in Iceland are spending huge amounts of times participating in programmes with their peers, with their friends, in safe places, supervised by professional adults. Amazing. So how do we introduce that in Cavan and Monaghan? It brings me on to my next slide. So what about insurance? What we do have across all areas of the country, and definitely in Cavan and Monaghan, are schools. And in the main, schools provide the formal education, and come the last bell of the day, a lot of those schools, well, in our experience, closed up. And even though they had the best facilities in the locality, the programmes that could be available to young people weren't there. What I do have to say is, when we went out and met with our schools in Cavan and Monaghan, the question about insurance, which is often used by so many different agencies and organisations as a preventative barrier to participating in things, did not even come into the conversation. Our schools welcomed us in, and because they themselves can see the absolute need for additional programmes for young people to participate in, they said, no problem, what do you need? So we introduced this pilot programme using the local schools, because there was many factors why we used the local schools. Number one, the young people knew the space, parents knew the space, it was accessible and they could get to it. The second thing was, not only have they demonstration rooms like cooking facilities and woodwork rooms, but they also have sport halls and gyms and all this sort of stuff that again we could run a number of different programmes in. The third thing is that we linked in then our local youth organisations from the area to come in and help support with the rollout of the Planet Youth activities. Why? Because there's a lot of young people who mightn't know about the services that are available on their doorstep. 1 minute left. Wow, I have another 8-minute video. By working collaboratively with our school partners, with our local youth groups, with those interested in working directly with young people, we have now introduced on pilot the Planet Youth Initiative, funded by our strategic partners, because they became involved and became vested. So now I'm going to really quickly play the last 8-minute video, and I'll sit down. Thank you very much.
We quickly identified that we needed to learn from those who had gone before us. So in doing so, we studied the Planet Youth Leisure Card Initiative, which was introduced as a response in 2007 to the city of Reykjavik in Iceland. Prior to 2007, statisticians and policymakers in Reykjavik identified that there was a stark correlation between the concerning youth statistics and young people's outcomes, with the large levels of free, unstructured time that young people spent throughout their daily lives. So, working in collaboration with youth organisations and sporting federations, the Reykjavik government introduced a leisure card programme to the value of €500 per young person to spend as credit on organised out-of-school structured youth educational programmes. Over time, the results have been phenomenal. By investing in their young people, the Reykjavik government have transformed social policy and outcomes for their children and young people. Key to this transformation was the introduction of ensuring new opportunities took place in safe and secure places with professional and trusted staff who would introduce programmes that created a sense of belonging and inclusivity for all. So how can we adapt this programme idea to Cavan and Monaghan within the current capacity and resources that we have?
The opportunities which have been provided to young people at the moment are fantastic. If we can get further opportunities to expand it, we would love. The key part of the whole project is that we're trying to co-design it with young people, rather than us again going, right, young people say they need more leisure activities, and we go, okay, I know what I'm interested in, I'll put that on. No, we need to be engaging with our young people, show them that they have a voice.
We are giving young people the opportunity to take part maybe in some types of activities that they might not normally have the opportunity to take part in. Whether that be that there's not a local club in the area that provides that activity, or whether cost or transport could be an issue as well. So with the Planet Youth Leisure Time initiative, we're able to bring that activity to a place where the young people are already there. We try and provide some extra snacks, and we create a safe, fun environment for them to enjoy their evening. The Planet Youth Leisure Time initiative has a range of facilitators on the panel. We've got some soccer, some basketball, bushcraft, arts and crafts, baking, all very popular activities with our young people.
It's got multifaceted benefits around what it can do. First of all, just from the actual peer interaction and allowing our young people the opportunity to come together in a safe space, be with other young people, be with their peers, to learn and develop, to communicate, and to develop those networks and friendships outside a school setting or outside a sporting activity.
We find there's a lot more communities moving to the area, and it's very hard for maybe to integrate into the community. So this project as well is tying in with that. You're introducing maybe, example, Ukrainians, Syrian immigrants moving into the country. So this project is supporting them to integrate within the community also.
The fact that the young people are consulted with as well as to what type of activities they'd like to engage with is a huge plus as well, because you're getting to target the activities to meet the needs and the demands of the young people, and so as a result you're going to get better engagement. Again, that will facilitate young people to get to know the local youth organisations and the sporting organisations within their areas as well, and linkages are created in that way. So on that basis, we thought that this programme was meeting a lot of what we would have been hoping to see coming out of the Healthy Monaghan programme.
It's a fantastic new project, something that really excited the sports partnership, because it was working directly with the group that we focus on, which is teenagers. It's a very hard group to engage. Studies have consistently proven that there's a high drop-off rate in sport and participation at that age. So Planet Youth overcame certain barriers. For example, it's delivered on site in the school, so you have the audience there in a setting that they are comfortable in, they're familiar with it, they're there with their friends and their peers, so straight away you have an audience. And be providing the coach to go in and deliver extracurricular activities and maybe trying new activities that they wouldn't normally get the opportunity to do. They might not have an interest, say, in going to a sports club in their local area, but by giving them this taster, it might lead to sustainable participation in the long run. And that's a key factor in the work that we would do. So this project tied in with that strategic aim on the ground.
The Planet Youth Increased Leisure Time initiative actually brings opportunity to these children and young people, and that's the key. And we're allowing them that space, in a safe space, to participate and improve their health and well-being.
It's also providing with the opportunity to engage in activities that they possibly never would have had the opportunity to actually engage in, and to try things, and to see that there is things out there that you can try that they may like, but also to see things and go, actually, try that, I didn't like it, so that will help with their further learning and development through life, and the opportunity to go, actually, I can try things. It's okay to try things. It's okay to actually develop that resilience and that character within themselves.
What's really obvious is that we see the young people coming back each week, and that kind of shows us that we're on the right track. And if we find that there's maybe a fall off in numbers, we then might need to tweak what we're offering, link back in with the young people and see what it is that they want to do for the remainder of the sessions.
With the after school activity, the capacity to grow and develop that is something we would fully engage and support with employees, because it's a very cost effective model. Working with our partner in schools, they're providing the space and the opportunity. We're providing maybe the facilitators, parents are providing the capacity for the young people to engage and be there. But also knowing then as a parent, the benefit for them is they know where their children are. They know that they're in a safe space. They know that they're actually engaging with other people and that they're having fun.
We really want to focus on providing more activities for young people, get them up, get them out and get them connected.
Planet Youth is a trusted partner of Healthy Cavan and of Cavan County Council. We've seen from previous reports and previous activities that Planet Youth has an impact, and has a very big impact across both Cavan and Monaghan as well. Our funding for 2023 has facilitated the initiative in secondary schools, and that's targeting children and young people from 12 to 18 years. We would hope that coming in future years we might be able to again partner up with Planet Youth to expand that, and maybe look at targeting the younger people in our primary schools as well.